Here today. I am with Heather. She has been a client of Reclaimers of Health, and we were actually recently talking, and I decided that her story really needs to get out there. It's something that we've talked about doing for a long time now. And, you know, the mom life, the work life, these things just don't happen. We don't have time. So as I've been saying to everyone, you know, we're going through all this crazy stuff in the world, and to find these little gifts, you know, the time right now is definitely a gift. We're home. We have time to do some extra things. So in this darkness, we are trying to shed some hope and some light. So I have Heather here. She has an incredible medical medium healing journey. It is, I actually have chills, you know, just talking to her. And I know that you will too. So this is Heather. And Heather, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how your medical medium journey started, and kind of what made you grab that first book when you know, got started?
So I have to give credit where credit is due. I was going to so many doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And in the summer of 2016, my mom found the Lyme disease chapter from the Blue Medical Medium book, and she read it to me. But I just wasn't in the place to receive the information at that time because it was so different than what I had been told, right? And in a hugely profound way, I was about to find out. So I went through a bunch of different things. The main things that I was suffering from at the time were Lyme disease, mercury poisoning was the biggest heavy metal that we were dealing with, shingles in the mouth with 8 oral surgeries, and also adrenal and neurological failure in and out of emergency rooms like crazy. So my point is that fast forward 7 months, and in January of 2017, I thought, you know, I can't keep going on this path anymore. It's not working. It's the definition of insanity, right? So I thought maybe it's time to look into this whole medical medium guy. Who's this guy? So, you know, moms always know, and so her first planting the seed was a huge piece of it. And when I started the medical medium protocol in January of 2017, I literally went to my pantry cabinet in our bathroom and took out all of the drugs that I was on. And I can't remember exactly how many prescriptions at the time, but it was 90 pills a day that I was taking a day.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Your Medical Medium talks now about not only are you healing from what's going on, but what did I try along the way thinking I was doing, you know, the right thing. So that was a huge step, throwing all that stuff away, because I was really at the point where I thought that I had no other option. Like, what was I going to do? You know, and to really fill you in on what was going on at the time, they were, the doctors, they were telling me that I was going to be bedridden or in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. That was like the most hopeful piece of it. And yeah, and I was 28 at the time, so with a 2-year-old. So it was rough. And my point is that I found the healing here that I was hoping for.
Incredible. And I always go back to, we tell people that, you know, take it step by step, and we meet people where they are and we coach them to do things slowly. But my situation was just like yours. I went into my kitchen and I threw out everything that I'm no longer. And when you're in that desperate place of like, I'm going to jump in 100% and I'm going to get better, that's just kind of shows the desperation. You know, not everyone jumps head first like that, but I can relate to your story about just throwing it out. Like, this is a new start. So
right.
That is amazing. And yes, moms always know best. It's really funny. You're blessed to have a mother that understands, because some people, you know, go through that whole piece too.
Right.
So tell everyone what symptoms you were dealing with. I know you mentioned a wheelchair, but there's more to it. So
yeah. So I really started having symptoms when I was in college, and they told me that it was just mono. And eventually, yeah, just mono. And eventually, you get the diagnosis of, well, maybe you're just crazy. Maybe it's in your head. Are you sure you're not pregnant? Maybe it's just a sinus infection. Give me a little bit more credit. So at the worst of it, yeah, the wheelchair piece was huge. But inside, I knew that I was always going to heal. Like I just knew that there was going to be that path for me. And at the worst, my mother-in-law and my mom took turns living with us because I had paralysis of the legs. So I had to call them and have them come get me in the middle of the night because my husband would work nights. So, I mean, I couldn't move that much. So it wasn't, that was the worst of it. But I had mood swings, heart issues, insomnia, joint pain, neck pain, muscle issues, the pain in my mouth from the shingles that everyone thought was bacterial. Eye floaters, that was one of the big things that I noticed going away finally once I incorporated the protocol. Headaches, migraines, numbness and tingling. What else? Irritability for sure. I mean,
how could you not?
Just kind of have to claim that, unfortunately. Thanks to my husband for sticking around and helping me to heal with all this, because you really need to give credit to the caretakers too, because without them, where would you be?
And your husband was carrying you at one point, right?
Yeah, he would have to carry me up and down the stairs to go to bed. And the worst of the emergency room visits was I couldn't even use my arms to push me out of the wheelchair. So like him scooping me up and picking me up out of that wheelchair is a moment I'll never forget, because you don't think, when you say your vows, you don't think stuff like this with your health. It happened to you in your 20s and your 30s. So yeah, I'm just thankful for him still being here too.
Yeah. So what symptoms have you healed? Let's go to that. Would you consider yourself how far along, and what's gone? And you can share your story about your baby.
Yeah.
And that.
Okay. Well, I would say irritability a little bit, but I probably should check in with my husband.
I always say that to clients when I talk to them. So what about your moods? So what would your partner say? Would they say you're moody? Because it's kind of like a subjective.
Right. Totally. I mean, definitely an improvement there for sure. The number one thing for me was being able to get out of bed on my own and walk unassisted to the bathroom. Like that was a game changer. Like the sense of freedom that returned with that was huge. And sorry, I didn't know if you're gonna ask something. Memory loss. Oh gosh, that was a huge one for me. I couldn't remember anything. And that has definitely increased as far as what I can retain, big time. Shaky. I was shaky almost all the time. And one of the big things that I really noticed too was the anxiety. And one of the things I wrote on my Instagram, I described that it felt like being in a trapped in your body, trapped in a dungeon of sorts. And when you finally get to go out of your house, like that is huge. Yeah. So it took me like the last year working through pulling out of our driveway comfortably and onto the road, because it was so different.
PTSD, and that's what people that have never experienced illness or symptoms, they don't realize that, once you experience something like that out of your house, to get yourself back to being comfortable again, going out of your house, like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or what if I get a whiteout migraine and I'm driving down the road with my kid? Or, all of those things, that it really creates a pattern of PTSD. So that whole thing of healing the nervous system is such a, it's the last piece that a lot of people deal with. It's one thing to be mentally anxious about an illness or about a symptom. But once the symptoms are gone, to have your body still anxious for no reason, that's that whole nervous system piece that all of us have to address along with this. Otherwise, sometimes the symptoms can go away and we're still all ramped up, so that's exactly what you're,
Definitely. I mean, even something as simple as going to the grocery store, I didn't used to be able to do. My husband still does it often because it takes a lot out of me. But in the past, I couldn't even go. I mean, it wasn't even a thought. And now I just like look forward to going to
Yes.
the road.
Yes.
Oh,
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember feeling like the lights and the sounds and that just like that complete overwhelm, that nervous system like freak out. It's a sensory issue. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point with the nervous system. That's where I found a lot of my symptoms, with the lights, with the sounds, and also the nerve pain in the feet. It feels like when it was at its worst, like walking on pins and needles constantly. So just being able to stand at the kitchen sink and wash dishes, like things that we don't even think about, when we take our health for granted.
Gives you a heck of a lot of gratitude, doesn't it?
So I would read posts about people saying that. Like, I went through this big healing process and I have so much gratitude for what I went through. And I would read those posts when I was really sick and I didn't get it. I couldn't understand it. And now on the other side, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is possible for so many people, in the gratitude, because you learn so much about yourself and you go down so many different paths that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Right. You wouldn't be, approaching your family in the way you're approaching or, feeding your kids the way you're feeding them now. If you didn't go through that, it would just be like another thought. Like, yeah, we want to be healthy,
Right.
but it's like now it takes on a whole new meaning of like, we have to protect our health and do these things that, set our kids up for health for their lifetime. Hopefully these things are going to help them to avoid a lot of the things that so many of us have.
Yeah.
So what was the first sign of healing for you? I know there's a lot of people that are just getting started. They haven't seen like the big, huge shifts yet. But they always want to hear, what was the first sign that you knew that you were moving in the right direction and it wasn't just another diet or another, fad or book or thing that you tried?
Well, I did, for the first 28 days that I started Medical Medium, I incorporated tons of raw fruits and vegetables and different supplements from, that he talks about in the back of the blue book, in the back of the chapters. And I felt like I was doing, pretty good with it. And then, like I said, that was the huge one, was getting me to be able to just walk, or like the fact that I have, had joint pain in every single little joint in my fingers. So just, again, being able to do something like washing the dishes was huge. The brain fog and the confusion, like I would be in the middle of a sentence and all of a sudden everything would just escape me, and my husband would constantly have to tell me what I was just talking about or what we were talking about. But the first thing that I really noticed when stuff started going downhill in a huge way was the shakiness and the clumsiness, like tripping over our 3-year-old son's 2-year-old at the time toys. Like, I was a gymnast for years. Like, there's no way I should be tripping over toys, So just little things like that, when they started to go away, it was like a veil was being lifted, because those were the first ones that affected me so greatly in the beginning, as far as just like, hello, something's not right here.
Yeah, and those are the small things. I always tell people, look for the small things that are happening. It gives you the confidence. It may not be like, oh, I'm completely out of a wheelchair in 7 days, but like these little things happen and you're like, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. For me, it was sleep. I had terrible insomnia when I was going through the worst of it. And when I first started, I started sleeping and it was like, oh my gosh, something good is happening. And as soon as you see those little things and you can kind of connect the dots, like, all right, I'm on the way here. I might not be all the way there, but I'm going.
And with one that you just made me think of, when I had shingles, if it's bacterial, it's not moving around. And the shingles involvement with the nervous system and through the mouth, up into the ear, into the neck, frozen shoulder, whatever you want to call, down into the shoulder, where all these people are giving different diagnosis for it, but really it's all connected and caused by the shingles at that time for me. So when you start to see the different movement of the pain decrease, that was another huge thing for me as well.
Yeah, and also I'm sure they give you all kinds of antibiotics and things like that had to work their way out. So in the beginning, it's like you don't really know what is medications leaving and what is, it's kind of confusing right in the beginning. So when you see things moving in the right direction. So fast forward a little bit, and then what happened with your pregnancy? You got healthy enough.
Yeah, yes, we did. The timing felt right? And one of the big pieces that I've learned through this is really to step out of the logical brain and try to feel more with the things that we choose in life. And so I specifically wanted to reach out to you when we knew that we wanted to get pregnant, because I knew that you were already doing medical medium before you got pregnant with your second child, with your daughter. So that was like huge for me to be able to know, okay, what supplements are going to be safe? What should I still do that's in the best interest of my healing, but also for the baby? And so that was such a relief for me after we had that first session in 2018. And fast forward, we had different sessions. We talked about different things I could incorporate or what I should decrease or increase along the way, and with surely a focus on plenty of fruits and vegetables, raw, as many as I could get in each day. And
Heather was doing everything really perfect already. She made my job really easy. It really was just helping her through the supplements that were safe and telling her to eat enough calories because she was pregnant. She really was doing an amazing job.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you. It was, I really looked at it like this was my last effort to live, because just to be totally blunt about it, I didn't want to live anymore at one point, and I knew that I needed and wanted to be here for our son at that time, and also the hope of having another child was what really kept me going. So that, I guess, I should have said that. That's a huge symptom that went away, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah. So you had another baby, and you had the baby at home, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what gave you the confidence to do that and know that with all this hospital business and stuff, what gave you that confidence to know, like, I can do this in my home with my midwife and my husband? What got you that confidence? You just felt that good.
Yeah, well, and I played with the idea of doing it a home birth with our first child, but my husband and my mom weren't really on board. So we found a birthing center, and it was great. The experience there with a midwife, it was the most amazing day ever. Um, but when I was there, it was like I was at a zoo. Like the nurses and doctors kept coming in to see me because they had never met anyone who had had a drug-free midwife birth. So fast forward to being pregnant with our other son, Drake, and I was like, I know that with everything I've been through, I am stronger now than ever.
Yeah.
And, the biggest thing is you can put letters behind the doctor's name, make them sound all fancy. But at the end of the day, I chose, when I stepped out to do medical medium, to take my power back, right? So yeah, so as a woman, that came in even more so, where like I can do this. Like, women were meant to have these amazing, beautiful births, and I think sometimes we just get in our own way. So yeah, he was born in this house, and it was amazing. We had the midwife here, and yeah, he's 15 months old now, so he's doing great.
Yeah, I always say that, when we go through this really dark period, that's when we shine the brightest. And I think so many of us now have experienced that. It's that shining light at the end of the tunnel, the brightness, then being able to tell your story. So I feel like this is just your story is incredible. How did the healing impact you spiritually and emotionally? I know that we talked about the physical piece, but I kind of want to hear, what did you do for yourself emotionally and spiritually along the path?
Okay, so before I started all this, I realized that was a piece that was lacking in my life that I wanted to bring in. But I really focused on the food and the supplements first. That's what I was called to do, and that was where the main focus was, and for me at that time. So after that, I really got into the part of the blue book where he talks about the different meditations.
So glad you mentioned that. People don't even know it's there.
It's amazing. And I'm saying this to you because I am not a person that can sit and just like meditate like the way people usually think of it. And I think that if we have these expectations of what meditation is supposed to look like, then we're kind of boxing ourselves in. So meditation for me started looking like the sunset meditation.
Yeah.
stepping out on my balcony, watching the sunset, the whole trust piece, the sun will return. Like that was a big one for me. But the biggest one for me was the stargazing. That really opened up a whole new world to me. And like he says in the book, it doesn't have to be like a long experience, like even what he says, even 3 minutes is monumental in the shifting that it can do for you. So yeah, that was huge. And I just found, even like I keep bringing up washing dishes, even with the water in your hands, calling on the different angels.
Yep. To bring all that in. Yeah. And those are all things that we definitely take for granted. How many times before you went through your illness did you, look at the stars or wash dishes or whatever, and you never had that like in the moment thought. Right. So that's just another thing after you go through a big thing. So after hearing your incredible story, what is the biggest thing that you want everyone to take from your story? So what do you want people to take away, whether they're just starting or they're halfway through and they're still dealing with symptoms?
Okay. The main thing the main reason I started posting things and getting more on social networking sites was because I wanted people to know that healing was possible. And again, that just because some person tells you that it's not doesn't mean that you shouldn't go inward. And really, does that resonate with you? Or do you feel like there's a totally different path waiting for you? The biggest piece, I think, is to honor that. I think there's so much noise around us all the time, and to just go within and really see what's best for you. And I also think that when you turn to medical medium ways, it's not like going to a doctor and getting a pill and not having to think about it. It's so much more an amazing way, because you actually get to know yourself in a different way. You really, like we talked about those symptoms, you really start to notice those things about yourself, and you really start to notice what is possible. So we talk about hope a lot in this world, and obviously this is a super crazy time that we're in right now. But I also would like to encourage people, and which is a big piece for my healing, was to stop noticing all the things that weren't going right or what wasn't healing yet, and just be patient with yourself and give yourself the time and the space that you need to really heal, because this isn't about symptom management. This is about actually understanding what's going on with the body and moving forward from it.
And as Anthony says, the body is always working for you to correct and regenerate and do all of those things. So, it's so important that people are patient. It takes the body a long time to get symptoms and illness. And it does, in some cases, it takes people time to heal. So I think that that's a great message for people. I remember when I first got my diagnosis, like being all over the internet, all I wanted to hear of was one person that was able to reverse it. Somebody that healed it. All I did was search for those stories. This was before I even found Anthony. Like, just please tell me it's possible. That's what I wanted to know.
Right.
That's why I'm so dedicated to sharing these stories. And I wish I would have done it along the way when I, worked with women like Heather. It's just that life was always so busy. But we're going to make a commitment now to share more of these stories, because I think now more than ever, with everything we're dealing with, people need to hear this. They need to hear hope. They need to know that there's light at the end of a dark tunnel. Whether that relates to chronic illness and symptoms or what we're dealing with in this world. So Heather, thank you so much. I know that everyone out there is really appreciating you right now.
Well, and I don't know if I've even shared this with you, but I mean, that I was working with my son along the way as well. And my husband did the 369 and the thyroid cleanse with me, all those different medical medium approaches. But at the same time, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung and bone cancer and given 12 to 18 months to live. And so he chose to go the alternative route and incorporated so much of the medical medium food and lifestyle. And, he's here stronger than ever. I mean, he's 70 something going on 20, I swear. It's amazing. So my point is that we all have other stuff in addition to just the healing that we're going through. And you also, when you go through this, you see how impactful it is and how much it works, and you want to share it with everybody.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that we all need to make an effort to do that. Share your medical medium story. I think it's time that everyone hears these stories. I want to hear more about I remember you emailing me about your dad's story, and I definitely want to hear more about that. Maybe we'll talk another day about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. That's so amazing. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you, and I know that everyone else appreciates you too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Share your Instagram name real quick before we turn it off.
It's Raw Real Healing, and I did that as a play on, raw foods, but also looking at the rawness of life, the reality of things. Real being the getting at the real cause of things rather than just covering up the symptoms, and healing for the obviousness of healing. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it
so much.
So follow Heather and read the rest of her inspiration.
Yeah, I hope it speaks to somebody who needs it today.
It will. It absolutely will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.